Hey guys, so it's Miss Hale here again. I am going to be doing a foursquare for adding and subtracting fractions with an unlike denominator, and the video that I did before ended in an improper fraction. This one's going to end in a proper fraction, and we are going to simplify that proper fraction because that's an important piece of our process. So we're going to make our foursquare on our paper. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is write the problem and ask ourselves same or different. Okay, so our problem today is 4/8 plus 1/6. Now, both problems that I've done so far have been addition problems. Which is fine. The subtraction is, the process for subtraction is the same. So it doesn't matter whether we're adding or subtracting. I just wanted to make sure that I went over the simplifying process for both an improper and a proper fraction. So that's the purpose of today's video. So we can see by looking at our denominators, we know that our denominator needs to be the same. Our whole needs to be cut into the same number of pieces in order for us to understand the value of each fraction in order to be able to add or subtract them. So we have to ask ourselves, are the denominators the same or are they different? These happen to be different. So that means that we are going to move on to the next part of our foursquare. So what do we write in the second box? LCD. We are solving for the LCD here, and the way we find the least common denominator, or the number that both denominators have in common to create the equivalent fraction, is we use our, yes, you're right, our tic-tac-toe board. So we're going to start with our smaller number, and we're going to list the factors, the multiples of each denominator. So we're going to start with our smaller number, which is 6. So we're going to count by 6 or list the multiples of 6. So we have 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, and 54. And we did not come across, like in the other video, we came across our other denominator. We did not, however, come across 8 in this tic-tac-toe board. So that means we have to make our second tic-tac-toe board. And for this tic-tac-toe board, we're going to use our other denominator, which is 8. So we're going to count by 8s here. We have 8, 16, and 24, and what just happened here is that we actually came across a number in each tic-tac-toe board that they have in common. So that is our LCD, our least common denominator. So now we're going to zigzag through. So we start here, we go here, we make like a Z here. So we're going to go to our third box here. The note that we write at the top of the box is multiply, then add or subtract. Okay. The purpose of the multiplication is to create an equivalent fraction with a common denominator of 24. So both of these fractions can be cut, or both of these fractions can be cut into the same number of pieces, and the number of pieces that they're going to be cut into is 24. But we know that when we cut that into 24 pieces, that we're going to change the numerator. We can't just change the denominator. We have to also change the numerator. It changes the number of pieces that we actually have as well. So that's the purpose of the multiplication. So we're going to use our little equation that Miss Hale taught you. So we're going to take our first fraction. It doesn't matter which one you use. I'll just start with the first one. 4/8 times blank fraction bar equals blank fraction bar. And what do we know we need to have in this ending fraction right here? We need to have our LCD of 24. So we're going to fill in that blank. We know we need that denominator to be 24. Now we have a multiplication equation here that we can fill in the blank. 8 times what number equals 24? Well, 8 times, if we go back up to our tic-tac-toe board for 8, we can count the boxes to know what number goes there. 1, 2, 3. So 8 times 3 gives me 24. Whatever we do to the denominator, we also have to do to the numerator. Then we multiply across. So 4 times 3 is 12. So in place of 4/8, we can actually fill in 12 24ths. So 12 24ths and 4/8 are equivalent. They have the same value. They're just cut into a different number of pieces. All right, so moving on to the next fraction, which is 1/6. We start with whatever fraction we're working with, times blank fraction bar equals blank fraction bar. What do we know we need to have in this ending fraction right here? 24 as the denominator. Now, we can fill in the blank of this multiplication sentence. 6 times what number equals 24? Yes, we can use our tic-tac-toe board, so we can go back up here and count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to fill this in. So 6 times 4 is 24. Whatever we do to the denominator, we also have to do to the numerator. 1 times 4 is 4. So in place of 1/6, we can now put 4 24ths. And we know that we are still adding these two numbers together. So we have 12 24ths plus 4 24ths equals, remember your denominator denominates and stays the same. We're just adding these numerator pieces together because we can now, they're now the same sizes, so we can now put them together. So 12 plus 4, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, that would be 16 24ths. So this is the answer to my problem, to my question. However, I need to ask myself, can this number be simplified? So I'm going to go to my fourth box and I'm going to simplify, and I'm either going to divide or I'm going to draw. So if I divide, it's because I have a proper fraction. If I draw, it's because I have an improper fraction. So is 16 24ths a proper fraction or an improper fraction? You are correct. It is a proper fraction. So that means we're going to be using division. And we're also going to be looking for our GCF. In order to find our GCF, or our greatest common factor, what do we have to do on our paper? That is correct. We have to make a sideways t-chart. So we're going to use this fraction right here in our sideways t-chart, 16 24. We're going to list the factors using, that's right, a factor rainbow. So we're going to make a factor rainbow for 16 and a factor rainbow for 24. So all numbers have two factors, 1 and itself. So that's what we're going to start with. 1 goes here and 16 itself goes on the other side. Now we're going to fill in the blank. We're going to move through our digits. We've already done 1, so we're going to move to 2. 2 times what number gives me 16? 2 times 8, that is correct. Okay, so then what about 3? 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 is 15. Oh, if I count up 3 more, then that gives me more than 16, so that doesn't work. So what about 4? Yes, 4 times 4 gives me 16. Very good. So now each one of these numbers has a partner. That's why we call it a rainbow, because we can kind of draw a rainbow with it. So we can connect each one of those numbers to its partner. When we multiply the two partners together, then we get the product, or this number right here. All right, so let's move on to 24. So we're going to list the two factors that all numbers have, which is 1 and itself, 1 and 24. Then we'll move to 2. 2 times what number gives me 24? 12, that's correct. Okay, and then we have 3. 3 times what number gives me 24? That's correct, 8. And then 4. 4 times what number gives me 24? 4 times 6. All right. So now we have all of the factors of 24. We can connect each one of the partners. And make our rainbow. Okay, so now we're going to set up our little equation. It's the same equation that we used in box number 3, but instead of multiplication, we're going to use division this time. So 16, which is the number we're trying to simplify, divided by blank fraction bar equals blank fraction bar. Now, what do we need to fill into this center fraction right here? We actually need our greatest common factor. So we go back to our factor rainbow, and we're looking for the largest number that both numbers have in common, the largest factor that both numbers have in common. So we can see very clearly that these are our smaller numbers and these are our larger numbers. We do, however, have to look at both sides. Okay, we can see they have 2. We can see that they have 4, but we're looking for the largest number that they both have in common. So if we move to the right, we can see that they actually both have 8 in common. So 8 is our greatest common factor. So what are we going to fill into the center right here? We're going to fill in our greatest common factor, which is 8. So 16 divided by 8. So if we go back to our factor rainbow, whatever number is connected to 8, that's the number that we're going to write here. The partner of 8 is what's going to go here in this blank here. The same thing can happen for 24. 24 divided by 8, whatever is connecting to 8 is what we're going to write in the blank. So 16 24ths is equivalent to 2/3, and that is the simplest form of our fraction and the answer to our addition problem. Great job, guys.